Francesca or Frankie Fennell. I'm at Wintinna Station, which is in the far north of SA. We're 2 hours north of Coober Pedy, and it's 3,812 square kilometres.
Jake Fennell at Wintinna Station. I grew up in Western Queensland, like between Winton and Winton on the Downs. And then 2002, my parents bought Lamina, so I moved there when I was 12, went to boarding school, done some contract, and then we moved to Wintinna 2015.
The country on Wintinna is mixed because we've got the highway going through the middle. So on the western side we've got Mulga sandhills, and it's like quite a heavier carrying country, and that's where we'd like to run the majority of our breeders.
Our eastern side's got a mix of like crab old country and then got a little bit of like breakaway country, like real sweet country but doesn't carry many cattle. Every breed you can imagine. We used to joke we had every breed bar Wagyu, and then we bought some stud cows from Newcastle Waters and that gave us the Wagyu, so we pretty much have everything there is. At the moment we've got about 4,000 on the place. There's about 2,700 breeders in there. We come across resting country like after 2019 when it was really dry, and it forced our hand to do it. Like we were running out of feed, so we had to develop new paddocks, like build new paddocks to put the cows in. And while we kept building these paddocks, because the herd was together, we'd run out of feed, then we'd have to move again. And in that time we had a few little rain events like 10 mil or 12 mil, and the amount of growth that come up when there was no cows in there, you'd think you've had 25 or 30 mil. So that sort of promoted us in the idea of moving them around, because you get a lot more effect from a smaller rainfall. Like we need 24 paddocks for the rotation. So then our core herd could run as one rotation, and then we have 24 months in the rotation, which that'll give us 2 years we can allow for with no rain at all or no growth event in the grass. And then once that finishes, we'll still have one paddock spare as a drought reserve.
I think the outback would be perfect if you didn't have flies. So when I heard that dung beetles got rid of flies, we went up to Lamina, and Alan brought some over from Queensland. We went and took some of their dung beetles and put them here because I had loads of poddy calves at the house in the drought. So we tried to get them going, and then that really sparked my interest. So we started noticing them out in the desert, and it was amazing. Like, we'd moved cattle to a new water point, and there hadn't been cattle grazed in some areas for like 25, 30 years. And the next day there'd be dung beetles there, already doing the work. If every little cow can do a poo and a wee, and the dung beetles can start taking it down and putting nutrients in, well then they're helping us to be more productive, be more profitable.
I'm Andrea Shanna. I'm the Regional Agriculture Land Care Facilitator, and I work in the South Australian Arid Lands region. Today we're out capturing some great stories about some projects that are happening on Wintinna Station. So Wintinna is a demonstration site trialling some new adoptive technology that's been around for a while but hasn't been trialled yet in the rangelands or pastoral country of South Australia. We're starting from the ground up. We're starting with the soils. So one of the key things about soil science is that a lot of the energy gets focused in cropping areas and high rainfall areas, and we don't know as much about rangeland soils, and there are so many soil types in pastoral country. They're really diverse. They support an amazing range of native plants and habitats and ecosystems. So understanding the fundamentals of the soils in our region will help us better manage the country.
Through the Ground Up project, we got some money to do soil and grass samples, like to get them analysed. Some of the results were really surprising, like traditionally what's known as like your harder country and not as good, it come back with more protein than like a good open Mitchell grass country. And things like your phosphorus, we knew we were deficient, but it was a lot worse than what we thought. Like we need to supplement more for that to get our production up. And through these things, like we think we're cattle farmers, but cattle farmers grow grass, and grass comes from soil, so you need to look after your soils first and then go from there.
This part of this trial project is with 6 properties in the Arid Lands region, and we're ground truthing essentially the satellite imagery.
SIBO Labs was established in early 2018 to bring a new approach to forage budgeting and feed-based monitoring, which combines the latest satellite and data science technologies with traditional pasture assessment methods. Our aim is to help producers to make every grazing management decision less complicated, more profitable, lower risk, and more environmentally sustainable. For Frankie and Jake, it has been very valuable to look at the Ceres tag information in conjunction with the fractional cover layer provided by the SIBO Labs pasture key service.
The fractional cover layer they put on, I think that's really accurate. Like, you can pick where your storm bands have been, and especially when we couple that with the cows with the Ceres tags in, you can pick it up straight away. Like, if you've had a storm come through in a narrow band, everything migrates to there and follows that band down.
Favourite bit of technology we've got at the moment would be the Ceres tags. Basically like a solar powered GPS for your cows, so you can see where they are, what they're doing, if they're following the rainfall, how much time they're spending at a water point. From the data on the tags goes on the computer, you can see new waters that we didn't know were there before, out on our western side especially, where they're going after rain, because they would disappear off water for months on end and we didn't know where they went. And now with the tags we can zoom in and say, oh yeah, they're there.
With things like the Ceres tags or the virtual fencing tracking them, if we can either congest them down with the fencing or use the tags just to locate where they are or know what area they're in before we start mustering, saves loads of time. Like the few tags we've got in out there saved us a lot of time in the last muster.
I'm Megan Willis. I'm a Senior Research Officer working for SARDI, leading the Virtual Fencing for Livestock project.
We've got 100 heifers in a virtual fencing trial with SARDI, which we're really excited about because we want to start rotating the cattle round more intensively. But to do that, you need fencing to stop them going back to wherever they want to go.
So when Frankie reached out to me, we saw the opportunity to undertake a trial and expand our work from just the southern part of South Australia into the pastoral zone. So at the moment, virtual fencing is prohibited in South Australia for use in any livestock, but the legislation is currently under review by the regulatory body in South Australia, so we expect that to change in the coming years. So we went through an animal ethics process to get approval to undertake our trials. So virtual fencing devices can be used in South Australia for the purposes of research with animal ethics approval. So in order to get the trial going up here at Wintinna, we engaged a supplier of virtual fencing technology that has a commercial presence in Australia, and they have a lot of experience working in extensive systems as well. So they were engaged to supply the product for us. We sat down with Jake and Frankie and organised how they would like to use virtual fencing on their property, what problems it might solve for them.
If we were to fence a place up how we'd like it, it's about 1100k. So with clearing and everything, like it'd be sort of 5 million plus to fence it ideally how we want it.
And then obviously working within the constraints of a very large enterprise compared to what is seen in other parts of the state, we designed a small trial that could test the capability of virtual fencing to exclude heifers from particular areas within a paddock to facilitate rest-based grazing. So virtual fencing works through a neckband that's worn by each individual animal, and the neckband administers signals to the animal to communicate a GPS boundary to them so that they know when they're approaching a boundary and when they've reached a boundary. So the collar will provide an audio tone to warn the animal that they are approaching a boundary. Once they reach that boundary, they'll receive an aversive pulse through their collar, which tells them you need to stop, you've gone too far. Virtual fencing is based on associative learning in animals. So that means that they learn to associate the audio cue with the aversive pulse. So over time they learn that if they modify their behaviour in response to that audio cue, so if they stop, turn around, back away, they won't receive an aversive pulse, but if they continue forward, they will.
They've been on about 5 weeks now. It does appear to keep them in the areas we want to be. The only downfall we noticed is when they hear the beat, the animals moved off quite rapidly and then weren't really responsive to pull up again, to block up for us. And we spent a lot of time on them cattle to make them exceptionally quiet and do what we want to do. So it's a little bit unknown until we get them back into the yards again and put them through and process them to see what effect it has on their temperament or their handleability. 10 years time, like have a well-established herd, like good lines of cattle and consistently producing virtually identical weaners is what we'd like. Like we're a weaner operation, so as consistent as we could get them would be ideal. At the moment we're about half developed, so we can graze half the land. I'd like to get to like virtually 100% capability and then come back to only using 75 of it until a drought comes.
So my dream for Wintinna is that we are sustainable, be profitable. We want to be productive, make sure we're looking after the land, while also remaining profitable, and hopefully we can raise happy cows and happy children and have a happy life.